So you said that you started 6.5 years ago?
With the photo booth business, yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that Zach and I always talk about,
Hmm.
and one of the most common questions that we get is everybody has the next greatest idea, but they can't start because they don't have funding for their business. Can you walk us through, you had the idea of your business,
Hmm.
what steps did you take from a funding standpoint to get things started?
So for me, just kind of looked at, well, what are my options to some resources? Do you have like the cash resources? Do you use a credit card? So I didn't have all this cash put aside, to start a business or pull money from another resource. I chose to say, you know what, I'm just going to use this credit card and I'm going to use this to then, purchase some equipment and kind of get things going. And then because I was starting my own business the way that I did with the photo booth, I basically was my own worker. I didn't pay myself, but like I was my worker. And so I did as much as I could on my own. And I think that's the thing, Tim, that sometimes people forget is that when you're starting a business, you really have to give more than the 100%. Initially, you have to be the one, creating the plans and figuring out a vision. And then if and when you can bring people on, whether as a, W-2 employee or an independent contractor, you've got to know how to work with them and then train them or teach them or help them basically be an extension of you so that when you can't run the business, they can run it just as good as you would or even better. So I think initially, like that's what I did. I said, you know what, I'm going to use this credit card and that's going to be what I use to kind of get myself going and then pay those things back as I start getting contracts in. Um, and the other thing, and I don't know if this is appropriate to kind of add in at this point, I also challenged myself. I, grew up in where I had an opportunity to do sales with the company that has like pink Cadillacs, And so one of the things I was taught early on was, it was Mary Kay. So you had to do these 30 faces in 30 days. That was your challenge to get 30, put the product on the faces of 30 people. So I just basically took that mindset from the Mary Kay training and other things that I've done even since then through people like, working with Zack as a business coach. But what I've done is then I took that concept and I said, okay, I need to get 30 bookings in 30 days. Like I just had moved back to Virginia 2 weeks before. And, I put some stipulations. It was going to be this special price. People had to book and pay in full by a certain date. And, did I get those 30 bookings? No, but I got 27 bookings in 30 days. And that's what really propelled my business into moving forward. So I think you have to challenge yourself initially when you're getting started is give yourself some goals that kind of scare you a little bit. And even if you don't reach them, you're probably a lot further along than if you just did nothing and said, well, I don't really know what to do. Maybe I could put some stuff on social media. Maybe I'll go to this networking event. Like you've got to do it all.
Yeah, so many people don't believe in it the same way that it seemed like you did.
Yeah. It's your choice, right? You can do things at your pace. And my pace just happened to be that I didn't want to be sitting around for, 30 days going, well, what am I going to do? And also when your family says, yeah, you could move back and stay with us for a while. However, we're not paying your bills. Then you're like, wow, okay. So I literally would suit up and whatever that meant. But, because Zach's suiting up and my suiting up are a little bit different. But, I would, no judgment, Zach,
So no
love the black
judgment zone
t-shirt.
here.
Exactly. And I've got my purple on. I don't know if you noticed. But
I know.
I every morning I would get up and I would treat getting my photo booth business off the ground as my 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever kind of hours you want to call it job. And I would get up and I would look and see what are the things I'm going to attend today. Who are the different people I can maybe outreach to? Oh, it's pouring down rain today. Okay, great. People are probably going to be in their offices more. So let me make some phone calls. And I will tell you all that sometimes the mistake, quote unquote, experiences or the phone calls that you make to the wrong department can be the best experience. And by that, I mean, I was reaching out. I thought, here I try to think I'm following rules like, oh, you have to register your business with every city agency to do your photo booth. And so I was calling up all of the city people because, emailing doesn't always get a response. And I reached out to the city of Virginia Beach and I talked to this woman named Carla. And she said, you actually don't need to do this. However, I'm the PTA president for my kids' middle school in Virginia Beach. And hey, there's a PTA on every school, and then every city has a citywide PTA. And she helped connect me. And literally, my first 6 months of business, I would say probably 75 to 80% of it was school related, but it was because I made that one phone call that, I was kind of scared to make. And I made it to the department that really wasn't the department I needed to make it to because it really didn't exist that I needed to do what I needed to do. But I took a chance. And so that's what I think people have to get comfortable with is taking chances.
I dig that so much, right? Like, oh, oops, wrong
Yeah.
person. Where else can this go? I'm already here,
Right.
right?
And I will tell you 6 years later, she is still, Carla's one of the biggest supporters of my business. Actually one of the kids that was, I guess, middle school is the one that just graduated from high school. And I did a little cool like grad design for him. So it's amazing. I mean, just how that one experience can set your business in motion in so many ways that you would have never thought.
Relationships always matter. I mean,
Yeah.
That's so powerful. What I took from the Mary Kay challenge of that was, I love looking at other businesses or things that like I like to consume, and just being like, okay, what did they do, and is there something there that I can I dissect that and figure out, is there something there that I can do myself, right? And so you looked at that. Hey, like I worked here, I did this before at some point. And they forced me, right? Forced, that's probably the wrong word. But
right.
like they
challenged me.
Challenged me to, put makeup on 30 faces in 30 days. How can I do that myself? And I actually would challenge more people to think like that too. I actually have coined it the Iron Man content strategy, where like I consume a ton of like Iron Man, like the fitness related triathlon world. And because of that, I say, okay, what can they do? What are they doing that I could do in my business, right? And so it's but it's the same thing as the Mary Kay 30 for 30 challenge, 30 face challenge. It's like, okay, like, well, they did that, and I abided by their rules, right? What would happen if I abide by my own rules to challenge myself and do 30, like, and you got 27 out of it? So those are hell of a win. That's a hell of a win.
I think the other thing too to think about and is, to couple with that is then the other concept of, okay, if you're going to outreach to, we'll just use that 30, you're going to outreach to 30 people. Well, guess what? And 15 of them are going to say yes. Well, and then probably out of that 15, maybe 5 of those are actually going to become a client, right? So you also have to be realistic with those numbers that everyone you reach out to, yes, you have these 30 people, like I said, to reach out to, but then only half of them are going to say, yes, you can tell me more about your business, or you can, I'm interested in getting some information. But then maybe about 5 of them are actually going to book with you. I mean, so I think that's the other thing, is that kind of a concept and mindset people have to remember, whatever those numbers are for them.
And one of the things that I think is interesting, when I first met Tim Ryan, the thing that he did at the very end of the conversation was, hey, is there anyone else that you think would be a good fit for meeting with me? And so many people wouldn't do something like that, but it's so simple. It's like, okay, if this meeting's going well, and he put that there's a filter there. He goes, if this filter is there and things seem to be going well, I'm going to ask this question. Hey, is there anyone else I should meet as kind of a new guy on the block? And I'm like, well, that's interesting. Like, I still don't do that, but that's a good strategy, right? Like it's interesting because so many people don't even capitalize on the network that they already have and their network. So.
Well, how about this concept? So a lot of times I have somebody, again, we can say this is part of the 30 people that, like, hey, I sent out information. They attended we'll just say a wedding expo. And I send an email, try to follow up. And someone actually does say, hey, yes, I'd like some information about your, photo booth related or digital booth, virtual booth event services. So I provide that information to them. But when I am having a conversation with the individual, if that's how we started this dialogue, I still also tell them that, I would love to, we would love the opportunity to work with you. And if for some reason we don't get the opportunity to work together, I'm happy to refer you, to other resources outside of the photo booth area. there's anything you need, please let me know. And I literally have had people call me back and say, okay, so your price was $100 more, but I really felt a connection with you. I felt like you really cared about my event, my wedding, for example. And you weren't just trying to sell me on the photo booth. And I want to go ahead and book with you. And then I say, okay, great, let's get started. I mean, it's creating that trust in there too.